Hello, guys. Buongiorno, buonanotte, buonasera, depending on at what moment of the day or night you're listening to this video and watching it, which happens to be the 15th and last video of this semester, right? So you might recall that last time I did a very basic review of English grammar, and we talked about the past, right? The past tense. And we said that the past tense is the verbal form that we use to talk about actions that happened at some point before right now, right? So all of that was, of course, an introduction to our last topic, which is the past in Italian. And I had mentioned that the form of the past in Italian that we're going to learn is called passato prossimo. So this is passato prossimo seconda parte, the second part of passato prossimo, in which I'm actually going to show you how you use a form, the most basic form of the past tense in Italian. So, in order to get there, though, I am going to take yet another little detour into English, just because in English there is a form to talk about the past that is very useful as an introduction for English speakers into passato prossimo. So, in order to talk about the past, there are many tenses we can use in English, not just one. And the one we were using in the last video is just known as the past simple. But there's another one, which is called the past perfect. Don't let the weird names scare you. These are forms of the verbs that you use every single day. You know them by heart. You just don't know their names, okay? And the interesting thing about this form of the past in English is that it actually uses two verbs. One is the verb to have, and the other is the second verb in a form that is known about as the past participle. All of this might seem a little scary with the technical names, but let's look at the examples and you will see that the past perfect is super simple. One example, I have loved, right? I have loved. Is that happening now? No, not really, and not in the future. It happened in the past, right? I have loved. So, if you look at this carefully, you will see that this form of the past in English has two parts. The first part is the verb to have. That's the one I marked in red. Of course, that verb is conjugated for the right subject. So, I have, we're using the right form of to have for I, right? And then we have loved, which is a peculiar form of the verb to love, right? It is what is known as the past participle, right? More examples. He has studied, right? Again, it's a form of the verb to have and a past participle of the verb to study. Why did I say he has studied and not he have studied or you know, any other variant? Well, because I have to change the verb to have so that it matches the person that is doing the action, right? So it's he has studied. But this is for the past, right? He has studied, so he will do well in the test, right? Doesn't mean he's studying right now. No, he studied in the past, and that's why he will do well. They have moved. Again, a form of the verb to have and a past participle. Okay? This is what is known as the past perfect in English. And the interesting thing is that in Italian we use a very similar past and we use it a lot. In fact, it's actually the form of the past that we use the most in Italian. And it has the same form. It has the verb to have, in Italian, of course, and a past participle. And you combine them in the same way. First, you put the verb to have in the right conjugation for whoever is doing the action, and then you put the past participle. And that way, you are using the verb in a form that refers to an action that happened in the past. So, in order to learn how to use passato prossimo, this form of the past in Italian, we actually have to do two things. First, look at to have in Italian, and then look at past participles. Luckily, to have in Italian, we already know by heart, don't we? I really hope we do. How do you say to have in Italian? You say avere. And that, I hope you recall, is one of the very first verbs we did this semester. It is an irregular verb, so I requested that you memorized it, right? Let's go over it for the very last time this semester. Io ho. Remember, H has no sound in Italian. It's not io ho, it's io ho. Io ho, tu hai, lui or lei ha. Noi abbiamo, remember the little pause when there's a double consonant. So noi abbiamo, voi avete, loro hanno. That is the verb to have. So every form of passato prossimo that we use, at least for the purposes of this course, is going to have the verb avere. It's going to start with the verb avere. Before we move on, I am going to mention that there are important exceptions. There are verbs that do not use avere in order to form their passato prossimo. They actually use essere. But we are not going to go into that. If you are going to move on to 102, that is actually the first topic we're going to start. Okay? But for now, for the purposes of this last lesson of the semester, we're only going to use the verb avere for our passato prossimo. Okay, that's the first part. The second part is the past participle, right? How do we find the past participle of an Italian verb? That's what I'm going to show you right now. So I hope you recall that we have three big groups of verbs in Italian, and they are classified based on the ending of their infinitive, right? We have are verbs like cantare, giocare, suonare. We have ere verbs like correre, prendere. We have ire verbs like diminuire, capire, sentire, right? So let's start with the first group, are verbs. The example I love the most of are verbs, it's of course amare. Now, how do I find the past participle of an are verb like amare? It's actually similar to the first step that we learned for conjugating a verb. We do the same thing. We get rid of the last three letters. But then what we do is we add ato, okay? For are verbs only. We get rid of the last three letters of the infinitive and then we add ato. And that gives us the past participle. So what is the past participle of amare? Amato, right? I got rid of the A, the R, and the E, and I added ato, amato. Amare, amato. What's the past participle of suonare? Suonato. What's the past participle of cantare? Cantato. Okay? I will also mention that this is not true for all verbs. It is true for the vast majority of the verbs, okay? But there are some that have what we in grammar call irregular past participles, but those are not going to be our concern for this last lesson, okay? So don't worry, just learn this basic rule. For adverbs, you get rid of the last three letters and you add ato, and that gives you the past participle of the verb. That's just one group, right? Let's think about another group, adverbs. What happens with these? Well, I'm sure you already know what the first step is. We get rid of the last three letters. So let's actually do avere, right? Avere is an adverb, ends in ere. What do we add? Attention, since it's an adverb, we do not add ato, we add uto. We get rid of the last three letters, we add uto. So what is the past participle of avere? Avuto. Yes, avuto. Good. One last group, ide verbs. Same procedure. Capire means to understand. We've used this a lot. We get rid of the last three letters, the I, the R, the E, and since it's an ide verb, we add ito. So what is the past participle of capire? Capito. Capito? It's fairly easy. Now, what does the past participle mean? It is the same thing. It can be translated using the past participle of the English verb. So, amare means to love, amato means loved. Avere means to have, avuto means had. Capire means to understand, capito means understood. Right? It's exactly like, the meaning is exactly like the past participle in English, and it has the same functions. Okay? So look at this slide carefully one last time. This is the way that you obtain the past participle of an Italian verb. Not all of them, again, but a vast majority of them. Right? And we will not be concerned with the exceptions for the purposes of this Italian 101 class. Okay? So for adverbs, you get rid of the ending of the infinitive and you add ato. For adverbs, you do the same but you add uto. For adverbs, you do the same but you add ito. Okay? So I said that just like in the English past perfect, I have studied, I have understood, you have read, etc., etc. Just like in those verbal forms, in Italian, the passato prossimo has two elements. One is the verb to have, or in this case, avere, and the other one is the past participle. We just learned how to find the past participle of verbs, right? So let's try and combine them. And of course, the golden rule is that just like in English, first you put the verb to have, or avere in Italian, and afterwards you put the past participle. So let's look at capire, for example. Capire. It's an ire verb, so we said that we get rid of the last three letters, and we add ito in order to find its past participle. Look at the last column from left to right of this table, and you will see that it's all capito, right? The past participle never changes. So that's one good thing, right? And then the middle column is what? The verb avere. What forms of the verb avere will the ones we already know? So this should be actually fairly easy, right? So, what is the passato prossimo of capire? Io ho capito, tu hai capito, lui o lei ha capito, noi abbiamo capito, voi avete capito, loro hanno capito. Now, very important, how would you translate this? Attention, you would not translate io ho capito as I have understood. You would translate it as I understood. Okay? There's a very subtle difference between the two. But basically, what I'm teaching you right now, passato prossimo, The meaning of this is the direct equivalent of the simple past in English. Okay? Good. So, io ho capito, I understood. Tu hai capito, you understood. Lei ha capito, she understood. Voi avete capito, you guys understood. Right? Let's look at another verb. Let's look at avere. Right? Exactly the same thing, but we have to be careful because this is an ere verb. So we get rid of those last three letters and we add uto, right? So our past participle is avuto. And then we just add avere, the correct form of avere for the subject, right? Io ho avuto, I had. Noi abbiamo avuto, we had, etc. Right? Let's do one last verb. Of course, I couldn't let you go without doing this verb one last time. Amare, to love. Attention, it's an adverb. So you add ato, amato, and then you just add avere. Io ho amato, I loved. Tu hai amato, you loved. Lui ha amato, he loved. Lei ha amato, she loved, etc., etc. Okay? It's fairly simple. This is the way that you conjugate verbs in the past in Italian. Okay? Two elements, the verb avere and then the past participle. So let's look at some sentences. How would this work in sentences? Let's look at these 9 sentences. I want to conjugate the verbs in parentheses in passato prossimo because these actions happened in the past. So lei cantare molto bene. Just like in the exercises that we did a few lessons ago in which we were using the present, what we have to do here is conjugate the verb between parentheses correctly for the subject that is doing the action in this sentence. Who's doing the action in this sentence? Lei, she, right? So we have to use that form of the verb, right? What form of the verb avere is correct for lei? A, right? Lei ha. But since this is passato prossimo, we're missing one more element, which is the past participle of the verb. In this case, capire. Right? What is the past participle? Capito. So we combine those two things. Ha capito. Lei ha cantato. Scusate. Yeah, I don't know why I switched to capire, but the verb is cantare, right? Cantare. The past participle is cantato because it's an adverb. So lei ha cantato molto bene. What does this mean? She sang very well. She sang very well. It happened in the past, right? This is the way you complete these exercises. You look at who's doing the action, you identify them, you use the right form of avere for that subject, and then you put the correct past participle using the rules I taught you. Let's look at number 2. Noi preferire rimanere a casa, right? We preferred to remain home is what this sentence means, right? But we need the form of preferire in passato prossimo for noi, right? Noi is the subject. So what is the right form of avere for noi? Noi abbiamo, right? And then what is the correct past participle for preferire? Well, it ends in ire, means it's an ire verb, right? We get rid of that. We change it for ito, right? Preferito. And we combine the two elements. Noi abbiamo preferito rimanere a casa. Again, what does that mean? We preferred to remain home. Okay? Il professore insegnare italiano. Who's doing the action? Il professore. So we need the lui form of avere, right? What is the lui form of avere? Lui ha. And then we need the past participle. For insegnare, it would be insegnato, right? Because it's an adverb. So il professore ha insegnato italiano. What does that mean? The professor taught. Italian. It happened in the past, right? Giovanni e Pedro giocare nel parco. Giovanni e Pedro, it's two guys. So we need the loro form, the they form of avere, which is hanno, right? And then for giocare, what is the past participle of this? Giocato, because it's an adverb. Giovanni e Pedro hanno giocato nel parco. They played in the park. Mio padre lavorare a New York. Mio padre, my father, right? What form of the verb avere do we need here? Mio padre, it is lui, right? He. So, lui ha. And then lavorare, what is the past participle? Lavorato. Mio padre ha lavorato a New York. My father worked in New York. Tu studiare Augustus. Tu studiare Augustus. We need the to form of avere, right? So it's I. And the past participle of studiare, which is studiato. Tu hai studiato Augustus? Did you study at Augustus? Io dare una penna al mio compagno. I gave a pen to my classmate. Io. What is the right form of avere for io? Oh, io ho. And then for dare, the past participle is dato because it's an are verb, right? We get rid of the ending, we add ato. So it's dato. I combined the two things. Io ho dato una penna al mio compagno, which means I gave a pen to my classmate. Mio cane abbaiare molto. Abbaiare means to bark, right? My dog. What form do we use here of the verb? Lui, right? So, and then abbaiare. It's a weird verb, I know, but it's an are verb. So you get rid of that a, that r, that e, you add ato. Mio cane ha abbaiato molto. My dog barked a lot. Last sentence. Mia sorella spedire una lettera. Mia sorella, my sister. What form of avere do we need here? The one for lei, right? Because for mia sorella, you would say she, right? Lei ha. And then spedire, it's an ire verb, right? Lei ha spedito una lettera. Mia sorella ha spedito una lettera. My sister sent a letter. This is the way that you use passato prossimo in Italian. It's very, very important that you remember that it has two components. The verb avere and the past participle. Okay? And that's it. That's it for the lesson and for the semester, right? One more thing though, one last activity. So, in the message that you will receive in your email and in the Blackboard announcement in the body of those messages, you will find 4 sentences just like these. And the only thing I'm asking you to do is to take that verb between parentheses and conjugate it correctly in passato prossimo using the rules I just taught you. Okay? Look at the subject who's doing the action, then use the correct form of avere, construct the past participle correctly, and insert it after that form of avere. Do that 4 times, and you'll be done with Italian for the semester. Okay? Grazie ragazzi. I must say it has been a bittersweet semester. I really enjoy teaching Italian. It is by far my favorite class. And both sections of Italian this semester were really, really cool, and I felt we were creating a really nice atmosphere in the classroom. And you know, the switch to online instruction was quite inconvenient, I must say. And I feel that this would have been really a much better semester if we had been able to continue in a regular fashion. But of course, you know, The world is what it is, unpredictable. Nonetheless, I am very, very happy to have been able to have you both in my physical and my virtual classroom this semester. You guys, without exception, are excellent students. I want to congratulate in advance those of you that will be graduating this semester. There are several of you, right? And stay strong because this has been a very, very long journey. I referred to both the semester and the pandemic, but luckily the numbers are changing for the better. I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's hang in there, finish all your duties with this class and the rest of them. Have a great summer e congratulazioni ragazzi. Congratulations, because this is it for Italian 101. Ciao ciao, ci vediamo.